Hello everybody and welcome back to Odin's movie blog. I am the critic who is a cynic, hope doing well, and today we actually have some Rian Johnson news that's worth talking about. So I've mentioned on the channel before that as much as I love talking about Star Wars and I love talking about Star Wars news, I've been trying to stay away from a lot of the Rian Johnson rumors because we've been hearing these rumors now for a very long time that his trilogy's been canceled, but it's never been confirmed, and we really haven't gotten any actual news other than just simply people saying, hey, my source says this, my source says that, which really isn't much to go off of when it all comes down to it. But now we actually have a little bit of news that I think is worth talking about. This was first known to me thanks to my friend to the channel, Drunk3PO, great YouTuber. Make sure you check out his channel. He's a member of the Geeks and Gamers team and is just an amazing, beautiful person. But anyway, he's the one that was tweeted, so his followers tweeted him this video clip of Rian Johnson seeming to indicate that he is not as certain about the Star Wars trilogy that he supposedly has as he was beforehand. Now, the last time I heard from Rian Johnson when it came to the trilogy was that, I'm still working on the trilogy, everything's fine, everything's going to plan, everything is perfectly okay. And now all of a sudden, now that he's doing the rounds for his new movie Knives Out and talking about these things, there's a lot of questions coming his way, of course, about Star Wars, because guess what? There's a lot of speculation online that he does not have this trilogy anymore. There's now even new speculation that you have Kathleen Kennedy, who potentially could be gone in 2021 once Indiana Jones 5 comes out, and that Jon Favreau will actually be taking over the head of Lucasfilm, and there'll be a lot more dispersion of power with him just being the top person. Now, whether those things are true or not, it's all rumors at this point. That was someone who was actually relatively high up in the Disney Lucasfilm news circuit, though of course he's also a terrible human being as well. He's blocked everyone on Twitter, to say the very least. But when it comes down to it, we have to look at that with a grain of salt, because until things happen, when it comes to this kind of news, until something actually happens, I don't really feel the need to dive further into it than I need to. But Rian Johnson has said something, and has said something that, in my opinion, is very interesting. So he was asked the question about his ability to work in Star Wars again. He said, first off, that he was excited to be a fan once again, that he was excited to be watching it and can't wait to see how the story ends, even though he easily made that job extremely difficult for J.J. Abrams and possibly even ruined that job for J.J. Abrams, because I still don't see how J.J. Abrams could possibly pull a good, coherent story out of thin air after what Rian Johnson left him behind. But he then went ahead and said this. He says, however, this is of course coming from our friends over at Bounding into Comics, John F. Trent, says, however, when asked if he would be working in the Star Wars universe again, so he's asked point blank, hey, are you excited to be working in the Star Wars universe again, or how is that going? Johnson stated this, well, we'll see. I'm still talking to Lucasfilm. They are figuring out what they are doing, and we'll see what happens. I would be thrilled if it happens. I'm working on my own stuff too. So the guy admits that he's working on his own movies, but wait a minute, he just said, well, I'm not sure. It's up to Lucasfilm. Lucasfilm hasn't made up their mind yet. Whoa, Ryan. Remember when you were going after fans of the film, calling them man babies and all kinds of other things? And then anytime someone talked about you not having the Star Wars trilogy anymore and reports coming out that you had been fired, and then you mocked them and said, oh, this is ridiculous, and just, made fun of them. Remember all that? And you were so confident. You said, oh, no, I'm definitely, you were tweeting all your fans and saying, oh, no, don't worry, everyone. I'm still working on the trilogy. The trilogy is going to happen. Well, it's interesting how you went from all that confidence to now, oh, well, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. Oh, how the times change, as it is often said. Now, could he potentially get a Star Wars trilogy? Sure. At this point, I honestly would not be surprised, because Lucasfilm has shown itself to be very incompetent. Disney has shown itself to be incredibly incompetent. You all know that I'm very much someone who's going to be critical of Disney at almost every step of the way because of the nonsense that they've done, both in front of the screen and behind the screen as well, especially with Bob Iger's recent news coming out about how he basically shafted George Lucas and promised him various things, and at least basically led George Lucas along to eventually say, no, that's okay, George. We bought your stories because we didn't want them to go out, but thanks anyway. Pretty much, right? But this is indeed extremely interesting nonetheless, because Rian Johnson's tune has changed dramatically here from, oh, it's happening, oh baby, don't you worry about a thing, cause every little thing gonna be alright. Rian Johnson lying again, because guess what? He's not sure. And in all honesty, I think this is the most accurate portrayal, right? Lucasfilm is still talking with him. I firmly believe that because of the people currently running Lucasfilm. But at the same time, too, I think that a bunch of people at Lucasfilm understand that once Episode 9 is done, once the actual marketing is done and the movie is released, and after a few months, maybe even all the way up to it gets released on Blu-ray 4K, I would not be surprised if there's not a whole lot of shifting parts behind the scenes. But once all that stuff is done, I honestly think that based on where the current state of Star Wars is and where it could potentially be after Episode 9, which is either going to be in the same exact space, if not even worse, which either way is a huge loss for them overall, I think that that is something that we must pay attention to, we must be aware of, but also really does seem to indicate that Rian Johnson's uncertainty here is likely one of the first straws. It's likely one of the first signs that change is indeed going to be happening behind the scenes. So it says right here, Johnson's answer is a drastic change in the narrative. See, this is the reason why I love John F. Trent and I love Bounding the Comics, because they give you context. They don't just say, look what he said. They say, look what he said, and let's compare that to what he has said beforehand. So it's a drastic change in the narrative when it comes to him and Star Wars. Disney and Star Wars had previously announced Johnson would be getting his own trilogy back in 2017, before The Last Jedi ever hit theaters. Note how it was before The Last Jedi had hit theaters, before all the backlash came. Kathleen Kennedy made the announcement saying, we all loved working with Rian on The Last Jedi. He's a creative force, and watching him craft The Last Jedi from start to finish was one of the great joys of my career. Rian will be doing amazing things with the blank canvas of this new trilogy. Oh, maybe. Allegedly, possibly, according to Rian Johnson now, of course. Star Wars promised a new trilogy would introduce new characters from a corner of the galaxy that Star Wars lore has never before explored. Johnson was expected to write and direct the trilogy, with Ram Burbank producing. However, The Last Jedi happened. Thank you very much, John F. Trent. That's amazing. Yeah, The Last Jedi happened. The film divided audiences, with the majority disliking it. It would lead to an utter bomb at the box office with Solo: A Star Wars Story. Thank you for making that connection. I feel like way too many people in the media don't make that connection. They try and blame anything and everything other than Last Jedi, when at the very least they should say, oh, it was a part of it. I think every person with a brain, any person with any sense of reality could say, oh, The Last Jedi played a part. Now, how much of a part it played, I think that is definitely up for debate. I personally think that it had a very heavy hand in it, but hey, at the very least, you should admit that it had something to do with it. It's not like Solo came out in this vacuum. It's not like Solo came out without any film that had just come out 6 months prior. It's not like that, right? Thank you, John F. Trent, for pointing that nonsense out. So again, it did lead to that box office bomb known as Solo: Star Wars Story, declining Star Wars merchandise sales, and most recently, lack of attendance at Disney's new Star Wars Galaxy's Edge theme parks at both Disneyland and Disney World. These are all verifiable facts. Go ahead and look it up for yourself. Rumors have swirled around Johnson and his trilogy, indicating that it wasn't going to happen, and Disney Lucasfilm were moving in a different direction. Johnson would respond to one of these rumors in February. I remember this. He wrote on Twitter, "No, it's not true. I'm still working on the trilogy." He says, "No, it isn't true. I'm still working on the trilogy. With all due respect to the movie bros, who I'm sure are lovely, kind bros with good fraternal intentions." So again, he was making fun of the people that had leaked the story, which of course we know that the story itself had no real ground to stand on. It was based on pure speculation, and they tried to pretend it was news, and it turned out just to not really, the sources that they claimed just never came out to be true. However, to me, this is still a great indication, because Rian Johnson, as you can see clearly there, I'm still working on the trilogy. Very, 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 very sure speak there, compared to we'll see. I'm working on the trilogy back in February to now, oh, we'll see. I'm still talking with them. Interesting how Rian Johnson says one thing on Twitter, but then when asked in person, he says something different. Interesting how a few months later, all of a sudden, he's no longer riding high. Yeah, he might get craze reviews, because we've already seen it happen with the early reviews for Knives Out. He's probably going to get an Oscar nomination for writing. Hell, he could even win. I could totally see the Academy saying, we must protect Rian Johnson because he is one of our own. And so let's go ahead and just gift him an Oscar, or at least an Oscar nomination for his work. Now, again, I haven't seen the movie yet, so I'm still going to save and reserve my judgment until I do. But I can only imagine that if they're already going gaga over that, just like they went gaga over The Last Jedi, and we saw the huge divide between fans and critics there, which is very reminiscent of what we're seeing currently with Joker, where the Joker audiences are freaking loving it, while the critics are very divided over it because of politics. Really, it goes to show you that politics runs the game. Rian Johnson happens to be the politically correct person, happens to be, and by that, I don't mean that he's PC. What I mean is that he happens to be the one that most aligns with these people politically. He also happens to like Star Wars to an extent, enough to want to write a movie and direct a movie for it, even though I think that he honestly destroyed it and was very clear that he wanted to kind of destroy the old lore to create something new, which, yeah, some people do, but you obviously have no idea how to do that because your movie sucked. And that's not just my opinion, that's an objective fact. Go check out my boy Matthew Kadish, who still has his articles up breaking down how, narratively speaking, The Last Jedi is a giant mess of a film. I would love to see him do the same thing for Avengers Endgame because, oh man, that could be even more so. But I think it's interesting nonetheless that now, all of a sudden, the tune has changed. If you want to see this video for yourself, to see him say it for yourself, don't take John F. Trent's words for it, though I would say do it because this dude knows what he's talking about. This dude knows how to write articles. This Dan knows how to make these connections and knows how to just be blunt and honest with people. But go ahead and watch the video for yourself on this site, and also go check out his Twitter. Again, you can still find these tweets because he hasn't deleted them yet. I'm sure that those will be deleted very soon, and if they end up getting deleted, that's why we have this wonderful invention called the internet where you can actually go back in time. We have the Wayback Machine where you can go back in time on a web page and find what was said. It's amazing how people think, oh, I can just delete this, delete that, and everything will be fine. We don't forget. We don't forget. We're not going to forget The Last Jedi. We're not going to forget the man-baby comment. We're not going to forget your total ass hattery on Twitter and also in general, especially as a filmmaker. And man, oh man, I can't wait for the I'm not so sure to being I don't feel so good, Mr. Disney. Because I have a feeling that's exactly what's going to be happening very soon with Rian fading away from the Star Wars universe, never to be spoken of again, except in, oh yeah, remember when we made that mistake? Because man, oh man, that's going to be a glorious day. But anyway, let me know your thoughts about this. Do you think Rian Johnson is done? I think that this shift of tone from him is something that we should at the very least be very aware of, especially compared to what he had said beforehand, saying, I'm still working on it. It's happening. It's happening. I'm not so sure. I'm working on other projects. I have my own work that I'm doing. I'm still talking with them. We'll see what happens. Very different tone there. Worth talking about, worth mentioning. But let me know your thoughts about this and all the things we talked about in the comment section below. If you like this video, smash the like button. Give me a subscribe. It helps me out a lot. You're all amazing and beautiful people. Have a wonderful day. And as always, God bless.